Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 36 of SAMA. SAMA is a webinar where we invite an expert to talk about the area of expertise. Today's expert is Dr. William Wong. Now, Dr. William Wong is very qualified. He's a Texas Complementary and Alternative Medicine Association professor member, and also a World Sports Medicine Hall of Fame member. He's a classical naturopath, PhD, exercise physiologist, certified athletic trainer, and a certified sports medicine trainer. If that's not enough, he's also an old Rite Catholic priest and a health fitness consultant. So Dr. Wong has done plenty in his life. Now, he doesn't look very old, but he's had more than 45 years of professional experience in natural health as applied to sports medicine and rehabilitation. He's been studying SET techniques, that's Systemic Enzyme Therapy, in both the US and Germany. So he's also well-traveled. Dr. Wong is widely acknowledged as one of the foremost experts in the field of systemic enzyme therapy, and his work in understanding the mechanism of action is the mainstay of all system enzyme therapy work around the world. Now, in this episode of SAMA, you will learn how inflammation is the root cause of almost every disease, from cancer to Parkinson's, from diabetes to heart disease. And so this SAMA is probably one of the most important SAMAs you'll ever see. So welcome to our SAMA. Dr. Wong, if you don't mind, I'll call you William.
That's fine.
It's wonderful to have you with us, and
Thank you.
I'm sure that people are going to learn a terrific lot today. So what is systemic inflammation?
Systemic inflammation is inflammation that happens body-wide, usually from stress, wear, and tear. Give you a great example. If your bicep gets tired, what do? You rest it. Your heart works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So does your liver, so do your kidneys, so do your lungs. If they stop to rest, what happens to you? You're dead.
You're dead.
So the same way that motors build up heat when they constantly work, and especially work at a load, our internal organs build up an inflammation, a heat, as they work and they don't get enough rest, and we stress our lives, and we don't eat well, we don't supply the right fuel, whatever the stressor is. So systemic inflammation, this is the way we learn it in school. Irritation produces inflammation. Inflammation produces induration, hardening, via fibrosis, and then fibrosis causes death. In anatomy, we learn that fibrosis is what kills most all of us. If you take an 18-year-old cadaver in an anatomy lab and an 80-year-old cadaver, and you take out the internal organs, you take a look at them. The 18-year-old looks full size, nice and juicy, like what internal organs are supposed to look like. And the 80-year-old, though, the internal organs are usually shrunken, about 1/3 the size that they were back when they were 18. If you cut through the 18-year-old's internal organs, it feels like very firm gelatin. If you cut through the internal organs of an 80-year-old, and I'm going to exaggerate here, but I'm making a point, it feels like a French bread that's been left on the kitchen counter for a week.
Oh, gosh.
You almost got to saw through the thing because there's a lot of fibrosis that built into the organ. As the organ becomes inflamed, it grows fibrosis. The fibrosis shrinks the organ and diminishes function. So therefore, as we age and we grow the inflammation grows the fibrosis causes a diminution in function in all of the internal organs. That leads to death. So fibrosis is the enemy of life.
Can you explain what fibrosis is in
Sure.
simple terms?
Sure. Fibrosis is the growth of scar tissue in response to inflammation, in response to an irritation. Let's say you're a coal miner and you're breathing in rock dust.
Yes.
You get what we call silicosis.
Mm.
Since you can't ever get the coal dust or the textile dust or the rock dust out of your lungs, it stays there permanently forever. And that dust causes an irritation. The irritation causes inflammation. The body, to try to adapt to the inflammation, gets hardened. It grows scar tissue across the inflammation, across the inflamed areas, to try to shore them up. It thinks that part of itself is injured. So it will grow this scar tissue, which then restricts expansion in terms of a lung. It blocks off alveoli. It causes all sorts of changes in the way we transfer oxygen. We have decreased SaO2. We have decreased vital capacity. So the inflammation causing the fibrosis diminishes organ function.
Okay.
Now, let me preface everything by saying that whatever I'm talking about here, most of it, the scientific validation for whatever it is that I'm saying can be found at www.enzymescience.com. There are almost 200 peer-reviewed journal-published studies on that website that you can refer to in every subject from angiology to urology.
Wow. So this would this problem have been pretty much non-existent prior to pollution, prior to the Industrial Revolution?
It wasn't anywhere near as bad. It's been said that our Paleolithic ancestors had as much stress in a lifetime as we face in a year. Now, mind you, their lifetimes were only 40 some odd years old before they got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or something, but still. We face an awful lot of stress compared to our Paleolithic ancestors. They worked 14, 16 hours a week gathering food. Lord knows what they did the rest of the time, reproduced, who knows. But then we became farmers. And then as agrarian folks, we were working 60 to 80 hours a week to produce food. I'd much rather be the Paleolithic guy, working 14 to 16 hours.
And spending the rest of the time for the reasons.
We also see that once we became fixed on one or two food sources, the difference between Paleolithic man and agrarian man is a loss of 5 to 8 inches in height, tons of bone density, and lots of muscle density. And the archaeological record is very clear. You can see most of the long-term degenerative diseases of man set in once he became a farmer.
Okay. Gosh. So it's really the body's response to try and to contain the irritants in your body that's causing the scar tissue.
Yes, right. The fibrosis is a reaction because the body thinks that it is injured. Let's take fibrosis within the blood vessels. If we don't have enough organic sulfur, if we don't have enough bioflavonoids, if we don't have enough vitamin C in our diets, those are the three major components that Ham's histology, not Dr. Wong, but Ham's histology, I've got a copy of it right over there, early 1950-something version, says those are the three components of soft connective tissue. Okay, the three major nutritional components. They're the glue in the mortar. The brick in the mortar of soft connective tissue. So once the blood vessels don't get enough of those nutrients, they may strain. You may have a blood pressure episode, and all of a sudden, blood vessel balloons out. It gets damaged. So the body thinks, okay, I have a piece of damage here. Let me shore it over by putting scar tissue in there. And it develops this spider web of fibrosis over the damaged area. Perfectly normal. That's what the body's supposed to do. But on that patch of fibrosis accrue fat, accrues ionic calcium. It's about the consistency of toothpaste. And then bingo, you've got arterial plaque.
Right.
But the insult, the inflammation comes first, and then the development of the plaque.
Okay.
So let's talk about two diseases that don't have an itis or an osis as a suffix. Let's talk about Parkinson's and let's talk about Alzheimer's. In Alzheimer's, we see in amyloid deposits, protein cross-linking, growing in the brain, short-circuiting neurons. In Parkinson's, we see amyloid deposits also growing. And matter of fact, the latest experimental drug for Parkinson's just got a grant. It's a version of nattokinase. The enzymes that we make can go in and eat away at those amyloid deposits if we make enough of them. Problem is, the 5 or 6 proteolytic enzymes, the protein-eating enzymes that we make in the pancreas or that we eat from our food, we use up most of them. We have just like we make a finite amount of dopamine in a lifetime, and we can tell when a person is premorbid, when they're about 3 or 4 days from being dead. We do urine catecholamine testing. We don't find any catecholamines. Okay, he's not making dopamine. He's going to be dead in 3 or 4 days.
Gosh.
Because there'll be nothing connecting the brain to the body. We can do the same thing with proteolytic enzymes until a premorbid condition. We use up 40% of our enzymes between 0 and 27. Guyton's physiology tells us that old age begins at 27, but it doesn't say why. It took the work of Dr. Max Wolf at Columbia, who was a PhD. No, he was an MD, an OBGYN, who had 7 PhDs to figure out why. And the why is, think back to when you were a kid. You sprained your ankle. Okay. You walked around for 10 minutes. You went back in the game. After 35, that same level of sprained ankle, that same degree of injury would take you 3 weeks to get over. When you're a kid, you cut into your finger. Heals with an invisible scar, pliable, soft. Getting much past 40, you cut your finger. What happens? You heal with a keloid. This big lumpy thing, this ugly thing that's growing where your scar was. Some people get plastic surgery. And what do the plastic surgeons fear more than anything else? The growth of keloids on their beautiful work. Big lumps of scar tissue looking horrible. Okay? Because from 27 on, instead of doling the proteolytic enzymes out with a tablespoon the way we used to back when we were younger, we know that if we use up the proteolytic enzymes at that same rate that we did between 0 and 27, we'll be dead by 40. So the body begins to dole out the proteolytic enzymes in the pancreas with an eyedropper instead of with a tablespoon. So healing slows down, fibrosis grows, inflammation accrues. The body's natural way of fighting inflammation is via the proteolytic enzymes. The proteolytic enzymes eat away at any exogenously tagged protein. The pro-inflammatory cytokines that we make, the circulating immune complexes that our immune system makes to create inflammation are tagged as exogenous protein. And exogenous means it doesn't belong there. It isn't part of you. Like when you eat a steak, that piece of steak is not part of you, so the enzymes know to go destroy that or break down that exogenous protein.
Okay.
So when we're young and we create inflammation, enzymes go right in there, eat away the exogenously tagged pro-inflammatory cytokines. Bingo, no inflammation, you don't have any fibrosis. Post 27, especially post 35, all of a sudden, your old aches and pains are coming back to say hello. Every injury you had when you were a jock as a child or as a youngster, as a teenager, are saying, hi there, remember me? Remember when you did this?
Yeah.
And they're biting at you because we no longer have the enzyme level to suppress the inflammation that injury is still trying to produce. The injury is still there. It might have never resolved.
Gosh.
So all of this diminution in enzyme production causes this grand increase in pro-inflammatory cytokine making by the immune system, and we can control it if we put in the enzymes from the outside.
So you're saying
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can we maintain the enzyme levels of prior to the age of 27 throughout?
Yes.
Wow.
If we take them in from the outside. Okay. This is the work of Dr. Max Wolf. Dr. Max Wolf wrote a book, Enzyme Therapy, which was published in English by Viking as Enzyme Therapy, published in 1973. And if you look in Amazon, you may still find an old copy of it. There's another work by a Dr. Milky, who's a physician, and 3 other physicians, and I don't exactly remember what the title of their book was, but it took most of Dr. Wolf's research, which he did for Pfizer. The Pfizer didn't want it because they couldn't patent the enzymes. But it took most of Dr. Wolf's research and collated it so physicians could understand where Dr. Wolf was coming from.
Okay. Gosh. So, okay, the big question. Sooner or later, I'm going to reach 27 and I'm going to be concerned about it. So what sort of foods, what can I do to maintain my enzyme level?
Well, unless you're Dr. Patricia Bragg, who's a friend of mine, she walks into her garden every morning and picks out what she's going to eat for breakfast. Whether she's in the States or whether she's down under in Australia, that's what she does. Picks out her own foods, eats it right there, very fresh. When you pick an orange, the second you pick it, that orange has 100% of its enzyme content. Sit that orange on the kitchen counter for 30 minutes, a mere 30 minutes, and it loses half of its enzyme content.
Gosh.
It just dies off.
Really?
Since most of us eat vegetables and fruit during the off season that have been stored in cold storage in argon gas for 6 months on the other side of the world, for example, now the vegetables sold here in the States are grown in Chile. Been in cold storage since God knows when, and now they're in the supermarkets here.
Right.
So completely devoid of enzymes. Gone. Completely gone. An enzyme is almost a living thing.
I was going to ask you to explain what an enzyme was.
Okay, and an enzyme is a biocatalyst. It's something that speeds up chemical reactions and makes other things work. Give you a for instance. Without the proteolytic enzymes that our pancreas makes, speeding up the chemical reactions, it would take you about 5 minutes to bat your eyelid, to do this, and about 30 minutes to bend your elbow.
Oh my goodness.
Makes curls really slow. So the proteolytic enzymes speed up chemical reactions and actually create life. Without the enzymes, there would be no life. We'd all be slower than snails.
Gosh. So they're absolutely essential.
Yes. And everyone thinks of enzymes in terms of digestion, but that's the last thing they do. First, the enzymes go from the pancreas, or the enzymes that we eat go from the small intestine. And here we get into trouble with, especially with the American nutritional schools and with the American scientists, because no one here believes that enzymes can be absorbed. They're too large and dull in weight. We'll get to that in a second. But the enzymes that we eat first go body-wide to fight inflammation, to fight fibrosis, to cleave exogenous proteins. They're lock and key mechanisms. Specific enzymes only work on specific substrates, specific things to unlock to eat. An enzyme lyses, it eats. And as for the absorption issue, Salmonella is 5 times larger than the largest enzyme. We have no trouble believing Salmonella can be absorbed. We have the clinical evidence. Well, first, the animal studies that were done showed that they had absorption and therapeutic action. If there was no absorption, there'd be no therapeutic action. Horses and dogs don't get placebo effect. Then with the humans, they not only monitored the amount going in, they monitored the amount in the blood and in the tissues, doing biopsy and blood work. Yes, the enzymes were there in 15 to 30 minutes once they were ingested. And here we have the difference between what nutritional physiology teaches, especially here in the States, and what the pharmacologists are doing. Because the pharmacologists have been using enzymes since the 1930s, the proteolytic enzymes, to increase the absorption of stuff. In Germany, India, even in the States, in Japan, and across Asia, antibiotics are mixed with serrapeptidase, with pancreatin, to greatly increase absorption, increase it up to 50% or more. The enzymes are mixed with other medications to increase absorption. So the pharmacologists know that the enzymes get absorbed. Why don't the nutritionists know that the enzymes get absorbed? There's no crosstalk here. There's no cross-communication.
Okay.
But be that as it may, we have 200 peer-reviewed journal-published studies minimum. You can even go on PubMed and find some more to show that there's therapeutic action. If there wasn't absorption, there wouldn't be a therapeutic action.
So does the enzymes have got to survive the acids in the stomach?
Yes. They have to be enterically matrixed or enterically coated, just like we time release cold capsules or cough remedies. There was a Dr. Laserwasser and a Dr. I forget. It was a German and a Czech who first developed a method of enteric coating when they were at Mucos Pharma, the parent company of the first folks who invented systemic enzymes. And then they taught that at MIT, the enteric coating techniques, where they taught pharmacology. When you enteric coat something, you either coat it in sugar and fiber, or you coat it in the advanced enteric coating things. Substances are plant walls and plant mucilage. So we have all the cellulose of the plant wall and the plant glues that basically glom onto whatever you want to mix them with. And they don't dissolve unless they hit an environment of at least 6.5 pH.
Okay.
7 is better. So any enzyme that isn't enterically coated or enterically matrixed, yes, will die when coming in contact with stomach acid. Although here I have to say that 40% of the people over 40 don't make stomach acid. Vegetarians never make stomach acid.
Really?
Yeah. Most vegetarians have an alkaline stomach, and I can actually prove that using the enzymes. They will take the enzymes will go active in their stomachs, and they'll get a tummy ache because there's not enough mucus protection in the stomach to protect from the enzymes biting at the tissues. So while the enzymes are sitting there before they go down into the small intestine, where there's a ton of mucus protection, and the enzymes don't irritate at all, the enzymes will bother the stomach in a good many vegetarians. There's something about after folks have been vegetarian for 6 months to a year, a good many of them, if not most of them, lose the ability to make hydrochloric acid. And in general, 40% of the people over 40 have lost the ability to make hydrochloric acid.
Gosh. Now, you're just touching on enzymes passing through the stomach. They needed to have the coating of cellulose. But how about enzymes in the orange, in that example that you brought up before? Because that wouldn't be coated in...
No. And you're going to lose some to the acid medium in the stomach. You're going to lose some to the acidic nature of the orange itself. Some will survive and some won't. So it's best to, if you're going to use the fruit enzymes, to try to get the fruit enzymes for more alkaline fruit, such as papaya. Papaya and pineapple are the two great examples. eating fresh pineapple, you'll get a ton of bromelain. The bromelain is both anti-inflammatory and anti-fibrotic. The papaya is primarily an anti-fibrotic enzyme, doesn't have a lot of anti-inflammatory action, but is one of the premier anti-fibrosis enzymes.
Wow. And they'll pass, so just by sheer volume, it passes through your stomach or some.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So what is it in the orange that breaks down the enzymes when you pick it from the tree? What change in the orange takes
Seems
place?
to disconnect from life. You've killed it. Ain't attached to the tree anymore.
It's quite a
It's about as well as I can explain it.
I got to sort of wrap my mind around. Well, I mean, it is life. It is life.
Yeah, disconnect a baby from its umbilical cord before time, and you've killed it. So yeah, think about taking that orange off the tree. You snap the twig, it's dying. So you better eat it before it completely dies out.
So you said that fibrosis leads to the the plaque in your arteries, which leads to the chronic conditions. It's sort of looking quite a bit upstream from how medical training sort of states things. How cholesterol is the big baddie.
They have known since 1999 that cholesterol is not the do-all, end-all, not the cause of heart disease, but they haven't wanted to really say it because they're trying to sell you the statins. Mm. In 1999, a number of marathon runners just fell dead on their faces.
Gosh.
From massive heart and vascular inflammation. That was the signal. Then they started looking at inflammation as a cause because none of these marathoners had arterial plaque, not a lick of it, not a whit anywhere. Mm. But the inflammation had so closed down the lumen of the blood vessels as to actually be worse than arterial plaque or closing off the blood flow to the heart.
Right.
So when you take a look at heart disease, the first is inflammation. The second are excesses of fibrin and fibrinogen, the things that make up fibrosis. They glue together with adhesion molecules and then glue together with platelets to create embolites. And then all of a sudden, you've got a blood clot. The blood clot causes a stroke or an MI or a heart attack. Mm-hmm. So if it's a cause at all, cholesterol is a distant third. But it isn't number one or number two. And they've known that since 99, which is why they started searching around for other things. Oh, let's find something else for statins to do. Let me tell you about statins. Before the advent of the statin drugs, there were four serious cases of rhabdomyolysis in the world any given year. Rhabdomyolysis is when your muscles begin to dissolve. Your urine turns black because your muscles are basically dissolving.
Gosh.
Your skin becomes filled with methane gas because your muscles are dissolving. Depending on how fast the dissolution is, some muscles actually balloon. The skin balloons. So when the surgeon goes in to cut away all the dead tissue and he pierces the skin, you get all this brown goop all over the operating theater. It's really messy. But there were only 4 serious cases of rhabdomyolysis in the world per year. Once the statin drugs hit, there were thousands of cases of rhabdomyolysis, along with the death of lower extremity nerves, along with liver damage leading to death. The statin drugs are actually deadlier than the diseases they're trying to prevent.
You said they cause death to the lower nerves because from people that I've talked to who have taken antistatins, they find that their lower parts of their body becomes weaker first.
Right. Exactly. Yes. It's wasting away the muscles in the lower extremities, and it's killing the lower extremity nerves.
Gosh.
Almost not exactly like a diabetic neuropathy, but yeah, close.
Isn't that dreadful? And of course, once something's dead, what can you do? You can't.
Once nerves die, there ain't no bringing them back. The only tissues in the body that can rebuild, unless Jesus comes down and taps you on the head, are the ones that have ribosomes. If the cell structure in the tissue does not have ribosomes,
Yes,
then they don't usually rebuild. Now, I will make an exception to this. The modern stem cell therapy can rebuild some tissues that don't have ribosomes, especially when the stem cells are taken from one's own bone marrow. There's a Dr. McKenna, who's a famous orthopedist in South Lake, Texas, who developed the technique of taking one's own stem cells out of bone marrow,
yes,
and putting it into joints, putting it into whatever. It'll get to the point where they can rebuild your organs with it, even if they don't have ribosomes.
Gosh.
But this comes from Dr. Paul Nihans, who started this whole thing in Switzerland back in the 1930s by taking live sheep tissue cell samples and injecting it into his patients. So if the patient had a weak liver, they would take fetal cells from the liver from sheep and inject it into the patient. So Dr. Nihans gets no credit, but he's actually the father of stem cell therapy.
Gosh. Well, what can you say? But isn't it shocking how, as you say, with the introduction of antistatins, because an enemy has been recognized, be it false or otherwise, and they've developed antistatins, the drugs, to combat this imaginative Don Quixote enemy,
right?
And it's causing havoc. And I don't think anyone I've talked to has taken antistatins and not experienced muscle weakness in some form.
Let's take that even further. The statins prevent the formation of, let's call it bad cholesterol.
Okay.
All right. Your brain is 70% bad cholesterol. Studies that were removed from PubMed about 6 years ago, studies that were done from the 1920s through the 1940s, there were several of them.
They were removed.
Showed that the use of polyunsaturated oils in primates, in lemurs and chimpanzees and gorillas, caused brain damage. Before the advent of the anti-cholesterol diet with the Framingham study in 1966, there were 4 cases of Alzheimer's per 1 million population. What's the rate now? We have nothing to show for almost 60 years of the anti-cholesterol craze, except for a monumental increase in brain wasting. Everything we think with is a saturated fat. All of our memories are saturated fats bonded onto proteins. All of our thoughts are saturated fats bonded onto B-complex vitamins and amino acids, creating neurotransmitters. So what happens when you don't eat the saturated fats?
Well,
how do we feed our brain? How do we feed our nerves?
They starve. They
exactly.
I guess they die. They waste away anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
4 cases per 1 million population before the Framingham study, and then by 1975, 9-10 years after the Framingham study, we began to see a great jump in cases of brain wasting.
It wouldn't take an Einstein to sort of join the dots and realize, well, what's happened? what have we done wrong? But it takes a stronger person to sort of say, well, we've got to change things to make things right again. Yeah.
Well, the Big Pharma does everything it can to create more patients. The Alzheimer's epidemic, near epidemic, has been wonderful for the drug companies. They've made a fortune, and they will continue to make a fortune. Here in the States, for example, cancer, 52% of the U.S. medical industry's income comes from cancer. So some doc in Argentina develops a hydrazine, this German rocket fuel from the V2 rocket, and he uses it on cancer patients, and it works. It dissolves away the CA. Kill the guy. Don't, acknowledge that he knows anything. Quietly put him away. Get rid of him. Get rid of all the evidence, and let's continue on with the chemo and the burning.
Mm-hmm.
Only 10% of oncologists here in the States, when they were anonymously asked questions, would put themselves through the same chemotherapy radiation that they do to their patients. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Also, wouldn't do anything. You live longer. If you don't do a thing about CA, usually you live much longer than if you undergo chemo or radiation. Wait, I'm going to hear the Gestapo knocking on my door in a minute.
Well, now, I was going to actually, I was trying to find a way to ask you, like, you're very outspoken, and now do you often sort of worry, or, like do you have any sort of...
I have been extremely Tory. I have been, if you're familiar with a gal named Ann Coulter, she's considered to be an ultra-conservative. I think Ann Coulter is a moderate liberal. That's how far to the right I am. I have been politically active since I was in 8th grade. That's 1968.
Gosh.
I have not shut my mouth. All of my friends who have gone to work for the 3-letter agencies, for the alphabet agencies here in the States, have stopped talking to me altogether.
Well, that's a good way to find out who your real friends are, though.
Exactly. But no, I have been this way. All of my radio shows carry my opinion about things, especially the politics of big pharma. I've been doing my radio show since 2007. Been politically active since 1968. Been extremely vocal and verbal. And so far there have been some threats, but no one's ever taken a shot at me. They're welcome to. I need the practice. Oh, just in case, folks, the only time I'm not armed is when I'm in the shower and it's close. So.
I'm just wondering, William, whether some of we had a practice run for the summer a few days ago. We talked about your family background and what your family's been through. I was wondering if you could tell the viewers what that is, and that may explain some of your toughness.
Well, my father, on the 7th of December of 1941, was on a Dutch freighter, a Dutch cargo ship, in the Straits of Malacca. They saw a Japanese destroyer come over the horizon, and they hightailed it, flank speed, being chased by the destroyer. They made it to Australian waters. From there, my dad signed on with the Allies, and he did convoy duty in the North Atlantic for the next 4 years. Anyone familiar with convoy duty in the North Atlantic in World War II? The U-boats were out there torpedoing Allied cargo ships left, right, and center. The life expectancy for a sailor doing North Atlantic convoy duty was 2 weeks. My dad lasted 4 years and change. They would take cargo in the Gulf ports of the United States and in the Southeast, so New Orleans, some of the other Gulf ports, Galveston, and in Savannah and in Charleston. Then they'd go to Portsmouth, England. As they traveled in convoys, the German submarines would weave their way in and out and sink ships left, right, and center. My father saw lots of people die and lots of ships sink. He met my mom. The ships would take on cargo in the Gulf. They would refuel in Havana, and then they'd head up to Portsmouth from Havana.
Okay.
My father had a cousin who used to sell my mom dry goods. He introduced them on a blind date. He made her wait until he survived the war because he wasn't sure he was going to survive the war.
Gosh.
And then he married her, brought her to the States. He had earned the right to have U.S. citizenship by...
Oh, more than several times over, I think.
Exactly. And then my mom jumped through all the hoops she had to jump through to be naturalized as a citizen. But I grew up first on the Lower West Side of Manhattan, and then in some of the toughest places in Brooklyn. Yeah. So, I don't sound like Sly Stallone because, like Hamlet said, I did much of how to forget that learning. The attitude of the people that I grew up with was extremely tough. They had survived the Great Depression. They had survived the Second World War. I knew people who had invaded Normandy on D-Day. I had friends who had grandfathers who were in the Battle of the Argonne in the First World War. So it was this general attitude. Now, mind you, with my generation, half of us became left-wing hippies, half of us stayed extremely right-wing Tory conservatives. I'm with the right-wingers. Didn't start smoking dope, didn't start doing whatever. So that attitude permeated everything else that I did. My guidance counselor in high school told me I was only good for digging ditches.
What's that?
I promised myself right then and there that I would roll up my doctoral dissertation and shove it up his ass. Only the son of a bitch died before I got to do that.
Obviously, they didn't have enough enzymes in their diet.
No, there wouldn't have been enough enzymes to digest the dissertation. It was pretty thick.
Gosh, this is quite a story. So, you also mentioned just like in the war, you lost quite a few family members.
Oh gosh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. My dad's family was quite large. What the Japanese would do when they took over a city, they did it in Hong Kong, they did it in Shanghai, they did it in Singapore, is a mini version of what they did in Nanjing. They took 20 to 30,000 Chinese, brought them to the docks, shot them, and threw them in the bay, with the warning that for every one Japanese soldier that dies, we're going to kill 500 of you. But first off, they ruled by terror. They just took these people off the streets. My grandmother was strafed off the streets by a Japanese fighter. The rest of my family, except for one younger uncle, was killed in the war. My dad mulled that over. It ate into him. His fiance was killed. All of his family were killed. It toughened him in a way that nothing else could have. What happened in Nanjing was much, much, much worse by several orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
But the Japanese committed horrors in China, and it cost my family the entire family.
It's dreadful. And where were they living at that time?
Hong Kong.
They were in Hong Kong.
Were all in a Hong Kong or Southern Canton province.
Okay.
My uncle survived because he was in the army. He was with he had been drafted into the KMT, into the Nationalist Army.
Right.
And he wasn't there. He was in Western China when the Japanese took over Hong Kong.
Gosh, that's dreadful.
Absolutely.
Well, what you're doing now, I guess your father will be proud of you because you're
I hope so.
You're staunch now. Your research is taking you down a path which hasn't really been trodden before, and people don't recognise it. And you're shouting loud. This is actually the true mechanisms behind injury, chronic injury, and how enzymes, the importance of enzymes in your body. Okay, well, thanks for the story. It's really heart-wrenching to hear it. And the second time is no easier than the first. And I'm very sorry, for what happened.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's taught me not to be a victim.
Well, you're not a victim. You're a
Exactly. Thank you. It taught me never to allow myself to be a victim.
No, you're a very strong person, that's for sure.
Thank
Now, if someone's hit the ripe age of 27, you're saying that the best thing they can do is eat real ripe, like basically straight from the tree, fruit, or straight from the ground, I guess, vegetables. Would they also be a provider?
If they can. Now, the problem with vegetables,
Yes.
and I'm going to get on the wrong side of all the vegetarians here. In all true vegetarian species of animals, they make cellulase, and the cellulase breaks down the cell wall of the vegetables, allowing the nutrients within the cell wall to be available for further digestion and absorption.
Right.
The hominid species have not made cellulase in 4.5 million years, since the appendix stopped working.
Oh.
Therefore, humans are not a true vegetarian species. We can be omnivore if we mash the food down to break the cell wall, if we cook the food to break the cell wall. There are other ways to break the cell wall, but in terms of just naturally being a vegetarian, we ain't it.
Okay.
If we would be it, we would still be making cellulase, which we don't. Our appendixes would still be working.
Right.
So it's difficult unless you either take in cellulase or cook or mash up, somehow macerate vegetables to get everything out of them that we need for nutrition. According to Weston A. Price, the average life expectancy for vegetarians worldwide is 56. And I've seen many blood type vegetarians who actually had to become carnivores again somewhere in their mid-50s because they were dying. And one of them was a very, very, very famous alternative doc who's a very close friend of mine. He just passed away in his 70s. He had several health challenges in his 50s, but the main one is he's basically malnourished. For as many supplements and as many homeopathics and whatever as he was taking, for as brilliant a physician as he was malnourished. Okay. And his internal organs were shrinking. Because we give you an example. The Hindus, mostly vegetarian, but they take in a lot of milk and a ton of eggs to get the animal fat and the high quality, the high level protein that are needed to maintain the internal organs, the musculature, especially the hormones, because you don't make any hormones without animal fat. The Essenic Jews that I know of, also strict vegetarians. They won't kill an animal, but they will eat a lot of eggs and drink a lot of milk to make up for that.
Okay. Gosh, I was going to ask you about eggs. Isn't it remarkable? But eggs you boil and then you wouldn't get the enzymes, would you? Does cooking?
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Enzymes die between 105 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what? In centigrade?
I guess maybe about 38 to something.
About 38, 40
to
maybe about 50, 55 degrees centigrade. So the enzymes die off much above body temperature.
So there's nothing you can do about it then. If it's, I guess you can make vegetable smoothies.
Again, if they're brand new, spanking straight off the vine, yes.
Okay.
But if they've been sitting around in a store, forget it. Wow. Which is why Dr. Wolf came up with the enzyme preparations and why all the enzyme preparations have I'll get it right. Proliferated the last 20 years because we don't get enough enzymes, and we need the enzymes to do all sorts of stuff. And the taking in of enzymes in a capsule is a lot easier than trying to pack enough enzymes into a smoothie, because some of the enzymes that you need to take aren't exactly found in vegetables or in food. For example, we need to find an enzyme that replaces our own chymotrypsin. trypsin and chymotrypsin are the anti-cancer enzymes in our body.
Oh.
We start making cancer cells about day one after birth.
Mm.
It's the trypsin and the chymotrypsin that eat those cells that keep the cancer from proliferating until we get older. I mean, most all seniors die with a cancer in them, but they don't die of cancer.
Okay.
But as soon as the level of trypsin and chymotrypsin plummets, or when we eat foods, for example, soy has a trypsin inhibitor. Soy has been known to cause thyroid cancer. Soy has been known to shrink thyroid. Soy has been known to cause a few other cancers, including breast cancer. So when most of the beans and the peas and the pods have trypsin inhibitors in them that reduce our production of trypsin or that neutralize the trypsin, therefore we can't use them either for digestion or for systemic action.
Okay.
So if we take the enzymes in from the outside in a preparation, then the administration of the enzymes is a heck of a lot easier.
Okay. And are there enzymes that have been made in tablet form that are like trypsin type enzymes?
Yeah. These days enzymes are either extracted from fruits and vegetables,
okay,
or they are fermented in big vats, just like beer.
Okay.
So the most powerful fibrinolytic and anti-inflammatory enzymes at present are serrapeptase and nattokinase. I don't particularly like nattokinase because it can have the same bleeding effects as the drugs of warfarin, Coumadin, and heparin. Most of the enzymes have a feedback mechanism to know when to stop lysing, when to stop eating blood proteins. Nattokinase in nature, in the natto cheese, is there with vitamin K, and the vitamin K stops the overthinning of the blood when you eat the natto cheese. But when you separate the nattokinase enzyme from the natto curd, you leave the vitamin K1 behind, all of a sudden you've got nothing to stop the bleeding. I know 3 different physicians, 2 of which were very well-known alternative MDs who got themselves and their patients in bleeding trouble, hemorrhaging trouble, by the use of nattokinase. So while it's one of the most popular enzymes now, I advise folks to shy away from them. The serrapeptidase, whichever way you want to pronounce it, tomato, malleolus, will do the exact same job according to the handbook of proteolytic enzymes, maybe better, and it has a feedback mechanism to know when to stop eating lysing blood proteins. But the best enzyme preparations around are where you not only have one enzyme, you have multiple enzymes. Think of an enzyme as a Chinese fan. It eats this amount of stuff. It eats these specific substrates. These specific things are what this enzyme will eat. Dr. Wolf found that when you combine several different protein-eating enzymes and cause them to overlap, you have a much broader span of action, and the anti-inflammatory and anti-fibrotic effects of the enzymes are much greater.
Yes. So
the solo enzyme preparations around are okay, but the multiple enzyme preparations around, especially the ones based on serrapeptidase, are much, much stronger and much better.
Okay. And these enzymes can actually reduce fibroblasts.
Oh, gosh. Well, they can reduce fibrosis. Fibroblast is what grows cartilage and bone.
Okay.
But they can lyse away at the pro-inflammatory cytokines because they're protein tagged as exogenous proteins. They can lyse away at excesses of fibrosis. Give you an example. In German medicine, whether it's orthopedic surgery or intra-abdominal surgery, it's standard procedure in allopathic German medicine, not naturopathic or homeopathic. In allopathic German medicine, it's standard procedure to feed the patient systemic enzyme post-operatively to prevent the formation of scar tissue.
Gosh. Is that known? Oh, isn't it kind of crazy? Because it's something it's not a poison. She ain't a drug. It's actually natural, isn't it? Enzymes are natural, right? It's just
Yes,
supplementing.
they are completely non-toxic, have no LD50. You can take an entire bottle of mine or anyone else's enzyme preparation in one shot, and the worst you'll get is a case of the runs, but it'll clean you out wonderfully.
and rather than do this, what do? They give you anti-statins, anti-inflammatories, and
Right.
oh gosh,
It makes big pharma money.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You know, we're all just guinea pigs for big pharma.
Right. Well, that's a little bit depressing, but I mean, for people that are watching the video now, they'll know that they look for a broad spectrum enzyme tablet that's been coated with cellulose so it can survive.
I invite everyone to come and take a look at our zymessence.com website that explains my systemic enzyme product, Zymessence, ZYMESSENCE. I've got several articles there. Also, come to Dr. Wong's Essentials.com and read the article titled Comparing Zymessence. You can see what the differences are between different enzyme preparations and why I designed Zymessence to do what it did.
Okay. Now, fibrosis can occur on the skin as well, can't it?
Oh gosh, yeah. As a keloid, yes.
Yes. Gosh.
Usually after an injury, a cut, a wound, can appear in the eye. After eye surgery, lumps of scar tissue.
Gosh.
We have one of the applications, again in Germany, the plastic surgeons give their patients systemic enzymes to avoid growing keloids on their work.
Isn't that amazing? Something that is well known then, and yet people don't do it. So it's not I take it it's not a regular routine for other types of surgery to take enzymes prior to the surgery.
It depends on where you are. In most of Eastern Europe, Russia, Germany, Central Europe, enzymes are a matter of course. They're usually standard in allopathic medicine. Yeah. In Western Europe, any place where big pharma operates, it's been an uphill battle. The enzymes were first created. The first enzyme preparation was created by Dr. Max Wolf at Columbia University in the 1940s and 50s.
Yes.
Again, as I said before, Pfizer didn't want it. They couldn't patent it because you can't patent nature. So Dr. Wolf got together with Dr. Karl Ronsberger. They bought a nutritional company called Mucos Pharma in Gericht Street, Germany, and they built the first systemic enzyme product there. That was the pioneer product. And it's where I studied enzyme use. Yes. And then the enzymes got to the States, for example, in 1989. But up until 1999, when I started chatting them up on television and radio shows and whatever, giving lectures on them, they'd only had sales of $55,000 a year. That's pitiful. Yes. Once they caught on and people understood what the enzymes could do, that particular company started having sales of $6 to $8 million a year.
Gosh.
Which they no longer do.
No.
A few things happened with that company. That Dr. Ronsberger passed away, and it's had 2 or 3 different owners. Just got bought out by Nestle. God, let's see what they do with it.
Nestle, they're the fast food company, aren't they, or drink company? Or
Nestle is one of the evil companies in the world.
Well,
Nestle is a company that tells mothers in the third world not to breastfeed their children. That breastfeeding is bad. Feed them Nestle infant formula instead. I'd like to hang the CEOs and the higher ups in Nestle alongside the folks from Monsanto and the other chemical companies.
It sounds like you haven't got any strong opinions on the matter. Yes, I know that a lot of their products do contain artificial sweeteners and other things which aren't quite so nice. But I guess it's up to the consumer to make the choice, and vote with their pockets.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's look. I'm reading through the questions now that were sent to us from our friends on Facebook and elsewhere. Okay. The fibrosis in the skin we've covered. Okay. The question was asked: can we consider liver fibrosis as an inflammation disease of the liver?
Yes.
Okay.
The liver becomes inflamed,
Yes.
whether through alcohol use or bad eating or God knows what. It will grow fibrosis. It will grow fat to pad itself. The enzymes will lyse away at the fibrosis and lyse away at the fat, because all proteolytic enzyme preparations, the pancreatin in most proteolytic enzyme preparations, also contain lipase, and the lipase eats away the fat.
Oh.
So we can take an alcoholic with a sclerotic liver and extend their lifespan by feeding them systemic enzymes. We won't cure it. It will simply delay the inevitable if they keep on drinking. If we combine the use of a systemic enzyme with a really strong liver support supplement, such as, and I'm going to give someone a plug here. There's a Chinese oncologist named Dr. Chi in Anaheim, California. He's got the world's best liver support supplement called Liver Chi. His website is chi-health.com.
Okay.
If you combine a systemic enzyme product with the Liver Chi, then you could really extend the lifespan of a liver patient. Take a diabetic kidney transplant patient. Their kidneys died from glomerulosclerosis. They got all filled with fibrosis they couldn't filter anymore.
Okay.
So they get a brand new kidney. The life expectancy on those patients is 3 years. That's it, a mere 3 years.
Gosh.
We take those patients and put them on systemic enzymes and put them on another of Dr. Chi's products, kidney chi, they'll last for decades. Not only that, but they will do something that urologists will tell us is impossible to have done. And the one case that I'm thinking of particularly, these kidney transplant patients, diabetic kidney transplant patients, always have constantly decreasing kidney function, decreasing urine output, increasing creatine, increasing blood urea nitrogen. We could take those patients, we can increase their urinary output, we could decrease creatine, we could decrease blood urea nitrogen. We could basically add years and years and years onto the 3 years they had expected them to live, just by the use of systemic enzymes and the kidney chi.
Gosh. And that's what, one tablet a day?
We've done it. We've done it.
Is it like one tablet a day they take, or do they have to take?
Of Dr. Chi's kidney chi, I think it's 2 to 3 capsules 3 times a day. If they use my systemic enzyme, it's 1 to 2 capsules 3 times a day.
Okay. Okay. If someone's a diabetic because their pancreas is not capable, is there like a fibrosis in the pancreas that's causing diabetes? Because you were saying
in type 1 diabetes, and I proposed this back in 2005. The dietitians gave me a hard time. I think a year or 2 ago, I think it was either the University of Adelaide or Melbourne, finally did an in vivo study on type 1 diabetics. But basically, they confirmed what my assertion was. My assertion was that the inflammation in the pancreas, which is had by all diabetics, but especially type 1, that the fibrosis, that the inflammation grew fibrosis in the channels that the beta cells use to excrete the insulin into the bloodstream, and that it was that blockage that caused the type 1 diabetes. And we said that because we had administered the enzymes and zinc to type 1 diabetics, and their A1Cs all went down. Didn't work in maybe 2 to 3% of the cases. In the majority of the cases that we tried and that I advised docs to play with, it worked. In some of the cases, the reduction in A1C was so extreme as to make the patient no longer insulin dependent.
Gosh.
Now, people will ask, why the zinc?
I was just about to.
All diabetics are zinc deficient. You can't make any hormone, especially insulin, without zinc. There are 2 minerals that are the cofactors for all hormones, zinc and magnesium. And we in the Western world are pitifully deficient in both.
Okay. But zinc is through diet. Your body can't create zinc.
No, but you can take it as a pill.
Okay.
Now, here's where we get in trouble with the RDA. The RDA was invented to keep people sick. Let me tell you how the FDA uses the RDA. They take a 1 ounce lab mouse, they starve it incrementally of a particular nutrient, let's say vitamin C. They starve it 5 milligrams at a time. They ignore the micro deficiency signs. They ignore the bleeding gums. They ignore the falling out hair. They ignore the looking ratty. When the mouse gets full-blown scurvy,
looking ratty.
Only when he gets full-blown scurvy, they go back 1 dose.
Yeah.
To the dose before he got full-blown scurvy. They add 5 units of measure, and bingo, that's the human RDA. How much more do you weigh than a lab mouse? Aren't your physiological processes going to be in need of more vitamin C than that of a 1 ounce lab mouse? The U.S. Academy of Sciences criticized the FDA for how they formulate the RDA, but yet it has become the world standard, God help us.
I thought they did it in proportion to the weight. So the mouse is 1 ounce, so really?
Yeah, about a 1 ounce lab mouse. Yeah. Yep. So when we look at something like zinc, the RDA is 15 to 30 milligrams. Okay, 15 to 30 milligrams for a 1 ounce lab mouse to keep him from getting sick. How much more does a 100-pound human need? Let's just extrapolate a little bit. Now we'll get the folks on the other side saying, well, too much zinc will make it toxic. Okay, how much zinc is that? And has anyone ever tried? I knew a physician, Dr. Hermann von Game, who was the youngest physician in the Luftwaffe. I think he just passed away last year. He was a physician twice over from Max Planck University of Bolzano, had degrees in engineering, electrical engineering, and something else from Max Planck. Brilliant man. He was taking 300 milligrams of actual elemental zinc. And I'll explain the difference here. When you take a look at most nutritional chelated minerals, for example, calcium, you get a bottle and it says it has 100 milligrams of calcium citrate per capsule. We forget that calcium citrate is a blend of the calcium, the elemental mineral, and the chelating agent, which is the citric acid. The industry standard in the nutritional industry is that it only has 15% elemental mineral, and the rest of the 85% of the preparation is the citric acid. So out of 100 milligrams of calcium calcium citrate, you only get 15 milligrams of actual calcium.
Gosh.
In 30 milligrams of zinc citrate, you get 4.5 milligrams of actual zinc. We've got the only preparation in the world that gives you 100 milligrams of elemental zinc per capsule, and no one's ever gotten toxic on it. Yet, down under, the Australian Health Ministry won't let us into the country with the zinc. We can sell everything else, but the zinc is too strong.
And that zinc's available to your body. It's in a form that your body can use.
Oh gosh, yes. Yes, once you chelate a mineral, non-chelated minerals will get absorbed eventually, providing you have enough hydrochloric acid in the stomach. That's the kicker. If you don't have enough HCl, if the mineral is chelated, if it's bonded onto something, that will carry it across. And anything in the vitamin C family will carry just about anything else across. Give you an example. An old med school trick for a headache is to take 2 ibuprofen and 500 to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. You're ensuring that those 2 ibuprofen get absorbed nearly 100%. Usually absorption is maybe 5 to 15%. 50 tops if you're really good at digesting, which most of us aren't. If Throw in the vitamin C, you get almost 100% absorption. Your headache goes away almost instantly.
Wow.
So anything you mix with a citric acid, with a vitamin C, with a bioflavonoid, even if it's just plain old ascorbic acid, will be absorbed to the max.
Isn't there? It's a little gem of information, isn't it? We should say that at the start of this, Sama. So, okay, but ibuprofen, that's a drug, isn't it?
Yes.
So would it work
so
with natural things as well, like
right.
other things?
You can apply that same chelating action to anything else. You can also take... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah. You can also do what I said you can do with the enzymes. You can take the enzymes, the proteolytic enzyme, mine or anyone else's, with any other preparation, with an antibiotic, with an anti-pain medicine, with any nutrient, with any herb, and greatly increase not only the absorption, but the utilization, because you're actually digesting it down to its component parts.
Isn't that remarkable? I know when people take iron tablets, if they also take vitamin C at the same time, the absorption rate goes high, and the pennies just drop now.
Yes.
Why?
Right. Yeah. By the way, the best absorbed iron is ferrous ammonium sulfate. There's no constipation. It gets absorbed almost instantly and almost totally. I can take any severe anemia patient, and in 3 days, feeding them 3 tablespoons of ferrous ammonium sulfate a day, you can find in a triple S tonic, not the pills, but the tonic. That's out of a company in Atlanta, Georgia. I can take any anemia patient and turn them around in 3 days on SSS tonic.
Gosh.
World's best absorbed iron anywhere. I used to make an iron preparation, and I quit making it because it wasn't as good as triple S, so I don't...
Well, how would you make an iron preparation? We just dissolve iron flakes?
Actually, yes. You make them organic. You make them organic by chelating them. So it's almost like you're almost like digesting them. Give you an example. When an animal eats a mineral, that mineral was inorganic when he ate it. He processed it through. He made it organic. All of a sudden, if you eat it, you'll get much greater absorption than if you had it from its original elemental mineral source.
Okay. When I grew some citrus tree when I was young, a little bit of time ago, I had old nails underneath citrus plants. And
exactly.
And it was like a symbiosis, because the citrus plants, their fruit is high in vitamin C, and I guess the iron would also be drawn in.
Exactly. Yes. I've done the exact same thing with oranges, with orange trees. Yes.
Okay, so the orange itself would have a high iron content, would it, if I did this?
Higher, yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I wondered about that. A lot of pennies are dropping around here during this. That's remarkable. Oh gosh. And so there's a way that people can restore their health by supplementing their diet with either natural enzymes, or if they're not able to, they can take enzyme tablets. And it's something that's so simple, and I bet they're cheaper than drugs, antistatins as well.
Probably, yes. And it's cheaper than getting sick. So, if you think about it, what's the usual allopathic cure for fibrosis? It's surgery. You go in and you cut away the scar tissue. Well, the surgery itself just creates more scar tissue. So you have women who've had a C-section. They've grown a ton of fibrosis. It's restricted their bowels. It's strangulated their intestines. The surgeon goes in, cuts away the scar tissue. 2 years later, they're back under the knife, because that surgery that cut away the scar tissue in itself created more scar tissue. And you might as well put a zipper in those gals, because you're going to be in every 2 years to cut away the scar tissue.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah. So if you know you're going to have surgery, go and pile up on some of the get some enzyme tablets and start taking days.
That's exactly what the Germans do ahead of surgery, and then they suspend it for they stop the enzymes 3 days prior, because the enzymes take about 24 to 36 hours to get out of the body. The animal enzymes do. The vegetable enzymes and the fruit enzymes leave the body in 4 to 6 hours. The animal enzymes, like the pancreatin, leave the body in 24 to 36. So they stop the enzymes 3 days prior to surgery. Then immediately, right after surgery or 1 day post-op, the Germans start the enzymes again.
Isn't it remarkable? Well, I guess that if you're in charge, if you're making the decisions of healthcare today, I think the world will be a different place.
Thank you. Which is why they'll never let me near.
Well, the world needs strong people like yourself to make a change. And change, or changes don't take place at once, but I think we've passed the 100 monkey mark. I think enough people, I think enough people are asking questions and opening their eyes and realizing, well, hang on a moment, why wasn't I taught this at school?
Just about everything we've been taught is a lie.
Yeah.
Everything from history to politics to, gosh, you name it, it's all a lie. And I'm big on revisionist history, and let's not even go there. But just about everything we have been taught has been a lie to perpetuate the existence of what is.
What we have now. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, I'm an optimist, and I believe that there is going to be a change, and it's going to be in my lifetime.
I pray so. And
I know that people like you are going to stand their ground, keep on, sounding their trumpet, and people are going to listen to you.
Thank you.
Dr. William Wong, we've been blessed to have you on our webinar program today. Thank you so much for accepting our begs, our pleads for you to come on.
Thank you for having me on board. It's been a lot of fun.
We've during each summer we do learn new things, but in this particular one I've learned a terrific lot. A lot of them long words too. Yeah, and thank you for your time with us.
You're very, very welcome.
And
God bless you all.
And thank you, Facebook and all the other Speaking to family. Lovely to have you on. And that's it for today. Well, I'm not sure what's happening next week because China's got a New Year celebration, and I might be heading down south where the weather's a little bit warmer, which, but that's not an excuse for not having a webinar. It just depends on the hotel internet speed. So we'll see what we can do. And William, we'd love to have you on again at some later stage because, of course,
tell me when. I'll be there.
Your questions would have only sort of prompted more questions. But we have run out of time. So thanks again, and thanks everybody.
Very well.
Goodbye.
God bless.
That's been amazing, and it's something so simple. This is something which I get a lot from some of the experts that we have on. Is sometimes stupid, simple things, and somehow Homo sapiens, in their vast intellect, have lost common sense, and there's a cheap solution.
Not very common.
No. And talking to you is just remarkable because you've come from a family that's had real hardship, real suffering, real losses. But what you're doing is giving real gains to people now. And so you've turned and you've made something, you're doing something very, very positive with your life.
I'm trying. Thank you.
Yeah. But you're a beacon of light.
Thank you.
Well, I'll let you get on with your evening. I'll get on with my day. I've got people looking at me in a funny way, so obviously they've got something to tell me. I hope it's good stuff. So I hope it's something like lunchtime or something. In China, the foods, because it's such a huge country, everything's either stored everything is stored really, or radiated, and radiation would cause damage to enzymes as well, I suppose. So,
it completely kills them. All of the U.S. military meals, the MREs, yes, meals rejected by Ethiopians, they're all bombarded with gamma rays, and it so changes the protein structure. The body doesn't quite recognize it. It basically turns it into fiber, and it expels it all out. So a steady diet of that by troops actually weakens them.
Yes.
Don't tell the Chinese that.
Oh well, I think it's known, but I mean, what can you do? Because you kind of start. You've got to feed the people.
Yes, exactly.
I think they do a really good job. Actually, it's actually quite amazing. No one goes hungry here. Really,
Oh, good.
they
Good.
they
Excellent.
the authorities here do a fantastic job. But and of course, the country's so big and so many people, how can everyone go to organic and just picking things from the ground? And the
Well, and the problem with, and here I'm going to go step on toes again. Problem with organic. A late doctor friend of mine, one of the best diagnosticians I've ever known,
yes,
was a parasitologist.
okay,
And he surprised a bunch of folks at a seminar once by saying, all of you organic vegetarians out there, especially you raw food eaters, you folks are so totally loaded with parasites, it isn't even funny. And everyone went, oh, no, it's just the meat eaters who get parasites. He goes, no. The bugs lay eggs in the fruits and vegetables. Since they're not killed off by anything, you eat those larvae. They grow inside of you. You never get rid of them.
Right.
In Canada and in Mexico, the use of untreated human feces is legal.
Really?
In organic gardening. So Pancho has a bunch of parasites. Pancho poops by the tomatoes. The bugs crawl from Pancho's poop into the tomatoes and start living there. You eat the tomatoes, you get the parasites. If you've ever seen x-rays of sushi eaters and organic vegetable eaters, parasite x-rays, when they put in contrast, it's frightening. Because all you see are little white squiggles everywhere in the muscle tissue and in the organs. Luckily, ivermectin will kill almost all of it.
What will kill?
Ivermectin. Ivermectin is an anti-parasitic drug invented by the Japanese. In the tropics, it has saved millions of human lives. It's mainly used here in the States for veterinary purposes because the U.S. medical system would rather sell you 5 or 6 drugs to do what one ivermectin treatment does.
Does it have any negative things? Does it do anything?
No, not at all.
Really?
Safest drug on the planet. You could just as well be drinking water.
Can you spell that for me?
1 cc of ivermectin.
Yeah.
1 cc of ivermectin per 100 pounds body weight, roughly 50 kilos. Taken once, and then 2 weeks later, take another cc per 50 kilos. That's all you have to do. Do that once a year. 99% of your parasites from your brain, your kidneys, everywhere will be dead.
Gosh, can you spell that for me? Because this is one of the V is in Victor. Yes.
MEC.
Yeah.
TIN. IVER.
Iver. Okay, I spelled it with an O, but apart from that, it's spelled exactly how it sounds.
Ivermectin. Yes.
Okay.
If you look it up on Google, even if you get it wrong, if you come close enough, you will find it. As I said, here in the States, it's not approved for human use. It's approved for human use everywhere else. But we rescue horses and goats and dogs. My family and I, we have a animal rescue, a large animal rescue. Matter of fact, if you go on Facebook, it's Angel's Wings Animal Alliance. I think that's what it's called. We haven't updated the page in more than a year since one of our members died. But so we rescue the animals, and as part of the rescue, we have to worm them.
Yes.
Well, we worm ourselves once a year.
Gosh.
Everyone should be wormed once a year.
Okay, and the dosage is how much per?
1 milliliter, 1 cc.
Yeah.
Per 50 kilos body weight.
Okay. So it's only a tiny amount, and just taken orally.
Orally or injected, either way, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I think most people wouldn't.
It's safe as water.
Gosh. And it's for animals, so it's dirt cheap and.
and take it once and then take it again 2 weeks later. Same dose.
Why is it that after I've said goodbye to everybody, the salmons always get better? Well, I hope it's just not us and the crickets. I hope someone's there listening, because this is really solid gold, that. Gosh, is there anything else you want to sort of partake to us before we do pull the plug?
I've got a ton of this stuff.
Yeah.
And this is all the stuff I give away for free.
Now, you're saying for papaya is good for the enzymes in papaya and pineapple. Now, pineapples are extremely high in enzymes, aren't they? Like, you use pineapple to soften, what's the word for it? For meat, to make it more, to make it softer. The enzymes.
Dr. M.L. Rothi, who was a chemist in Mumbai, was the first chemist, was the first doctor anywhere to isolate an enzyme. And he isolated papain. And he sold papain as a digestive product and as a product to soften meats and foods and other things.
Yes.
Since 1924. And the extraction of enzymes from food is a science that's absolutely down pat. They've got it down pat. Mm-hmm. Now they're actually taking the enzymes and making them less needing of an alkaline environment, so that they're fermenting them in acidic environments, getting them used to greater and greater and greater amounts of acid, but the acids don't kill the enzymes.
Right. So it passes through the gut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without enteric coating.
Yeah. Gosh.
Actually, doesn't taste like much at all. If I don't inject it, I usually mix it with a juice.
Oh, okay.
Like cranberry juice, so you can't taste the thing.
And it's not less effective if it has to pass through the stomach?
No.
Gosh.
The only difference, especially when you're treating goats, if you give it to them orally, it kills the worms in the lungs so fast orally that sometimes you kill the goat. If you inject it, it gets absorbed slower, and it kills the parasites in the lungs progressively.
Okay.
Baby goats are born with parasites already in them. You have to warm them before they're 2 weeks old.
Okay. Well, that's quite a bad side effect, isn't it? Death. So if someone's got worms, parasites in their lungs, they might suffer a similar.
It hasn't happened with humans yet.
Okay.
It's been noted with goats, and if you look at the human studies that the Japanese did, and that has been done in actually applying the ivermectin in the tropics, no one has ever died. No one has ever gotten a bad result. It's almost uncanny, because you'd expect a powerful medication to have some side effects. They can't find any.
Well, 1 milligram for a small person, that's a tiny amount. So it must be a very strong drug.
What it does, it gets into the nervous system. It doesn't affect the human nervous system, because it can't get past the blood-brain barrier, but it gets into the nervous system of the parasite and basically kills it.
Gosh. Wow. Well, that's the sort of thing I wanted school to teach me. None of this, nonsense which we get jumped in. Yeah.
I learned about it treating goats.
Is there anything you don't do?
I fly airplanes. I've jumped out of airplanes. I can shoot. I can. I fence.
Oh, but everyone in America can shoot.
I can't. No. Oh gosh, no.
Isn't it?
Heck no.
Oh, that's
no. The city boys can't shoot worth a shit.
Oh, okay.
Man, they think they could shoot. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn if they tried.
Okay.
The country boys can shoot, and they can shoot very well.
Yeah.
But about the only thing I don't do is play the ball sports.
Okay.
Balls like football, basketball, baseball. Okay. Balls are the instruments of childhood, and I hold that any man who still plays with the instruments of childhood is locked into his childhood.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
That's an entirely different subject.
Okay. Well, childhood's great. Those are my best, best times of your life in your childhood. No cares, no responsibility. And
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good note to finish, isn't it? Childhood.
That's why it lasts so,
yeah, and why it comes around a
so
second
short.
time as well. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks again, William. Have a fantastic evening, and thanks everybody
God bless
for
you. Well,
listening.
thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.